and it's getting to the point where are you probably as bored as me for all this takeover chat, because there just seems to be no end in sight, does it, Rich? I mean, we're 8 months on since they put the club up for sale in November, and is there light at the end of the tunnel? I'm not so sure at the moment.
Exactly. It's you sort of have to take everything with such a pinch of salt. At the moment, there's been so many deadlines. There's been so many sort of indications that we're approaching the end game throughout those 8 months that I do think most fans, and I'd say this to anyone really, is until you see that sort of official statement and until it's done, just don't believe anything really, because there's been lots of conflicting reports. You've got to remember that where are these reports coming from? It's all going to be sort of PR and hyperbole and bravado from either party, really, indicating that they're further along than they might be, or that they're very confident of sealing a deal at this moment in time. So I think you've got to be very cautious the way that you approach it. Qatar, we've heard a lot this week, and it does sound like, there could be some serious movement there, but you've got to remember why they would be saying that, because they want the end of this themselves. They want to act like they are in a position to secure Man United now, and they've already had to up their bid several times. They are growing frustrated. It was only, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that they were saying it was take it or leave it, and now, this talk could retaliate another bid from Ratcliffe. There could be further twists and turns, along the way. So I would just be very cautious the way that maybe fans are getting carried away with it at this moment in time. I mean, we're recording this on the Friday afternoon, 16th of June. It was only yesterday that we had these conflicting reports. Different, sort of business journalists saying different things to football journalists, talking to different sources, getting different sort of angles on the story, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It's still very unclear as to what the situation is right now. Those initial reports said that United were considering granting Sheikh Jassim exclusive negotiating rights, but then even the Reuters story that said that then sort of caveated it, saying but Jim Ratcliffe could then come in with an improved bid, and that negotiation period could then be withdrawn. So there is no sort of finite details to it all at the moment, and you've got to remember, because it is a bidding process, if the Glazers agreed to go into negotiating rights with someone else and then the other party retaliated with an even better offer, they'd be in a difficult situation then, because would they be contractually obliged to go ahead with the exclusive rights they'd previously agreed, or would they say, well, look, there's a better offer here for us and we want to pursue that instead? So I still think there are plenty more twists and turns in this saga, and it's taken 8 months already. We even saw one report, what was it, yesterday, saying that this could be dragged on into next season as well. So just because the transfer window opens and it seems like the perfect opportunity for United to have the sale complete, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, sadly.
I think it's the perfect case study in takeovers, really. I mean, I get quite interested. Newcastle's takeover was another interesting example when you see the reporting of it. And in my experience, anyways, obviously both camps are briefing journalists and they're briefing their sides and their angles really into the story. And obviously both sides, Sheikh Jassim and Jim Ratcliffe, they've both remained confident throughout the whole process. Both sides have said, look, we're really confident our bid is going to be successful. Now, only one bid can be successful, and there's different angles at play, and as we've said, they've got their own interests and reasons for preaching that confidence. They want to make it look like they're the ones leading in the process, don't they? And even the Glazers, they've got their own motives as well. They increase the bid price up, and I think they're looking around 6 billion for the club. Is Jesus Christ, is that not enough? Come on, you know what I mean? Can we just get this sorted and wrap it up? But I mean, I'm not surprised. They've done all they can to take the money out of the club since becoming majority shareholders in 2005, and I think the process is just a bit fitting of them, really. They've been accused of being clowns, and it's become a bit of a circus, hasn't it, this whole process? I mean, like I said, 8 months on, and we're still not close to a resolution, it seems. As you said, Rich, 8 to 12 weeks possibly, one report from the Times, I think it was, said earlier this week, that, or maybe yesterday actually, that said it could take. And that's just so unsatisfactory, isn't it? 8 months on, still no clarity. With the transfer window opened this week, and we've still not got an answer. And I guess a wider picture, Rich, obviously we're talking about transfers and Eric Ten Hag and the first team, but on a human level, we know staff at the club and people who work at the club, and some fantastic people who work there, and it's uncertainty around their futures as well, isn't it? Which is just really not good.
No, and that is the whole point, isn't it? Really, that you can often sort of fall down the media narrative that Man United are a brand. It's a TV show, almost watching the football, and it is just this big brand, but it's not real people. You forget sometimes that these footballers are young men who just so happen to be brilliant at football, and they're in this climate now. They're in this environment where they have mega bucks, they have lots of money, but they are still human beings with the same feelings as all of us. Yes, they might have mansions and lavish lifestyles.
What?
Exactly. Who would have thought
Breaking news.
And you also realise that the bread and butter, the people who do lots of the hard work at the club, they're not paid really, really well. They are just ordinary people who still have mortgages to pay. They still have to put food on the table and worry about how ends meet. And they are deeply and very, very much affected by the cost of living crisis going on in the UK. We've got inflation rates up to, 8.7% at the moment, which is, a record high, and everything costs more. And of course, the takeover puts uncertainty over their futures, and the more it goes on, the less clarity maybe some of them have. And of course, the summer as well is a good opportunity for people to potentially change jobs or change clubs in terms of football, not just in terms of players, but in terms of personnel, backroom staff. It is sort of a good time for changing of the guard and for new structures to be put in place. And ideally, the takeover would be completed now, because you'd be able to get things in place heading into the new season, have real clarity. And it's important not just for what United do off the pitch. It's not important, I know everyone gets fixated about who United are going to buy when the takeover goes through. What will it mean? Will there be a new shirt sponsor? What does it mean, in terms of on the pitch stuff going forward? But like you said, there's so many other people behind the scenes who are going to be severely affected by what happens at United going forward. And just for the sake of everyone, we need to have some clarity on what is happening and when we can expect a resolution, because it is an absolute mess. 8 months, there was talk initially that it was going to be all done, signed, sealed, delivered by Easter. Then it was the start of summer, start of the transfer window. We're in June now, and the whole process, the fact that it's taken this long, means we cannot be certain or confident that it will come to a conclusion anytime soon either.
I mean, I've said all along, I've been concerned at how public it was, really. I think when you look at takeovers, the general rule is you'll not hear about them until they are complete. Obviously, you look at Chelsea's takeover with Roman Abramovich. He was sanctioned, and that was very, very public with Russia and Ukraine. So that was in the open. But if you look at Manchester City, was it 2008 with Abu Dhabi? Obviously, Newcastle, Saudi Arabia with PIF. They kind of just came out of nowhere and just happened. Pardon me. Obviously, there was talks and stuff and discussions that had been leaked and made public. But when you get to the latter stage of discussions, usually non-disclosure agreements get brought out and they get signed in the boardroom, and it's all very confidential and legal. And yet we're still hearing briefings from either side. Oh no, Sheikh Jassim, he's really confident his bid's going to land. No, Ratcliffe, he's the front runner. And for me, that's been a massive concern, really, Rich, throughout the whole process. I don't think that's been a good omen. Obviously, the stock market, that's been moving, hasn't it? Because we are stock market experts, aren't we, Rich, on the New York Stock Exchange. United share prices went up. I think it reached around $25 per share, actually, which is the highest it's been in quite a long time. And I think that was explained by some financial experts as basically traders are betting on Qatar being the most likely winners because they get paid out on the shares, etc., etc. So, I mean, we'll come back to Glazer, wrap up this little segment. I guess it's not surprising that it's been handled this way, Rich, because they've been terrible owners and handle this in a terrible fashion on it.
It's a fitting finale, I suppose, to the Glazers, isn't it? It's a badly managed process. It's taken far longer than it should do, and there's still no clarity or communication about how it's going to be resolved. It ticks every box of the Glazers' ownership and tenure at the club. And again, I've mentioned it on previous podcasts. I know there is, due to United being on the stock market, limitations to what they can say, because that can severely, affect the stock price and stuff. And we've seen that in the past whenever there's been public announcements, very rare ones, that can have an implication on United's valuation. But just put a statement out there, just a hollow statement, and say we're still persevering with this, we're still looking to sell the club. Even just make clear, are you looking to sell the club completely or not? I know that would effectively say Qatar or Ratcliffe or maybe someone else who's investing in the club, but what are you leaning towards? What is it you want to actually do? Are you still trying to sell Manchester United, or are you going to be ambiguous and say we're looking at other investment opportunities and revenue streams for the club? I just think that throughout the process, we've had 8 months now, there's been opportunities to, like we said, when we were at Wembley for the FA Cup final and they were there, just give some sort of update, give the fans what they deserve, and whoever takes over, there needs to be clarity, there needs to be key lines of communication, and there just needs to be improvement, really. And some United fans will say that any bid is better than the Glazers. Some would say that they'd rather even have the Glazers than some of the alternatives that are being suggested. But whatever happens, United, it's so long overdue. They just need owners who care and who are communicating with them on a regular basis. It shouldn't be much to ask, but modern football, it really is.
I feel like I keep saying on this podcast, let's hope the end's in sight after every takeover discussion. And then 1 month later, talking about I'm banging my head against the wall, Rich. So I can only imagine what supporters are feeling like, really. Do you know what I mean? So